So I've been experiencing a lot of problems with this head unit recently. That being that whenever I'm driving the car, it'll randomly just shut off. It looks a little bit something like this. What the heck? Yeah, it's pretty annoying. So what we're gonna be doing today is fixing the mistake that I made whenever I installed this head unit, which was I just took the wires, spun them together, and then I electrical taped them. That's not the best way that I should have done this. I should have known that maybe like a wire or something was gonna come loose, and that's what I think is happening in this case. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull the head unit out, I'm gonna unelectrical tape them and unwrap the wires from each other, and then I'm gonna go and solder them so that way they should have a solid connection and the radio shouldn't be going out anymore. So the way that we do this is actually pretty simple. I find it easiest if I pop this out, so it lets me be able to get under here. And just like that, it easily pops out. Now we can see my absolutely disgusting job of making these brackets fit in here, but what we gotta do is get our Phillips head screwdriver so we can get those two things out. So here we go. I'm gonna try and do this one-handed. Just put it in there and unscrew this one. And then on this side, I only have 2 screws holding mine in, which I think is true of all of this year of Impreza's head unit. I'll put them right down here for the time being, and now this head unit should just slide right out. So what I think's happening is one of these cables that's like accessory ignition or a power cable or something, I think that one of them is probably loose, and that's what's causing it to lose power so often. So I'm gonna remove this electrical tape and we're gonna go through and solder all these wires together so that way it's more of a permanent solution. And don't worry, I'll make sure I keep the camera rolling while I'm doing that so you guys can see how I'm going about fixing this. So I find it easiest to go ahead and unplug this harness from here. That way it's easier to work on all these wires and they're just straight out here and ready to solder. Now it's time to get out the good old soldering iron. And mine is in this case right here. As we open this up, it's not in there. Now don't you guys even worry your little heart out. I found the soldering iron inside the electrical bag as well as some solder. All right, here we go, boys. This is where I would recommend people to not follow my advice and not do as I do, because I feel like soldering inside of your car probably isn't the safest thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyway because, as we all know, I'm a trained professional 100% for sure. While that's warming up, we got our bad boy sponge here. It's a little bit damp so we can, wipe the tip on it. So as you can see, this is a little bit sketchy. We're going to have to grab the soldering iron and go through and try and solder these wires together. But as that's warming up, it's good for us to go through now and take off all this electrical tape so that way it's ready to solder. Okay, so I'm probably just gonna end up cutting the wires again because look at this mess. Absolute mess from the electrical tape. But we're just gonna solder this one because whatever. But I'm probably just gonna end up cutting the rest of them and then resoldering it outside of this electrical tape portion, because peeling all that off and having it look like this is gonna be disgusting. So here we go. I'm not gonna show you guys me soldering all of them because that would be incredibly boring, but I'll show you guys this one. Okay, so here we go. We got our soldering iron. The first thing that we are going to do is we gotta coat the tip of it and solder. I think that's just good practice. I forget where I learned this, but I just know it's good practice to first coat your tip before you start soldering. Look at that nice tip right there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the unspoken rule that we're gonna go over right now. Everybody's solders suck, so I know mine are gonna look terrible. Let's just preface that before we start. So we're taking our soldering iron. You want to warm up the wires a little bit before you start. Then go ahead, put some solder on there, connect these wires together. Oh yeah. So we can say it, we can admit it, it looks pretty awful, but you know what? It's going to keep those wires together and no one's going to look at it ever again. So I'll wrap this in some electrical tape and we'll call this one done, and I'm going to go ahead and do that to all the rest of them. So we can take our electrical tape like so. What we're going to do is we're just going to wrap it up so that way, none of these exposed wires, if we didn't wrap any of them, would touch each other and short or anything like that. So good practice to either use these, or they also make sleeves that kind of look like this, and you just heat them up after you're done and they'll just cinch onto there real nice. I kind of like these more, but I don't have any, so just going to be wrapping this in electrical tape. Look at that. It's not going to win any awards or anything, but it'll work for this car. Okay, now I'll do the rest of them for real. Okay, I think I got it all good now. I redid all the wiring on it and started them up, so that way they should be solid connections. Shouldn't be any more problems related to wiring or anything like that. So let's go ahead, before we put it back in, just test it and make sure everything's working. Also, to anybody that actually does wiring as like your job or anything, like shout out to you, because I was dreading doing this. I was trying to put it off for so long. I didn't want to do it so bad, and even now I can say I still didn't really feel like doing it, but you know, I wanted to make sure my car is working perfectly fine, so something that I had to do. But I just have to say, like, it's just so tedious working with like small wires and like soldering and like trying to hold everything in your hands and be able to do it. And obviously I'm not in like the best scenario to be able to do that, because you know, I'm trying to do it in my car with like, you know, everything scattered all over the place. But still, to anyone who actually does wiring as like your job or anything, or you actually enjoy this, like, props to you, because this is not my forte at all. But let's go ahead and test out the head unit and make sure that it's working how we want it to. So I think that sounds good to me. Everything's working fine, so I'm going to go ahead, reinstall the head unit, then I'll go for like a short drive, see if it acts up at all, and then I'll report back to you guys. So putting the center console back together was just as easy as it was taking it apart. You get those 2 screws back there, and then this panel is just some pins that you just push it in and it'll snap right in, so that way we're good. So now we will go take it for a test drive, see if it acts up at all, and then we have the final verdict. Well, I'm very impressed, because it ended up that it is now working correctly on the drive that I took. It was just a short little like 5-minute drive, so to be fair, over the next couple of days I am gonna have to look out for it a little bit, because maybe it didn't solve it. It was just in this 5 minutes that I took it for a drive, nothing acted up. So I'll look after it over the next couple of days. This video is not going to go up for a little bit, so if you guys are seeing this video, that means that it did end up working, because I posted it, seeing if it acted up at all over the next couple of days. But otherwise, this video is going to be trashed while I try and figure out what else was wrong with it. But right now, it's doing great. So, excuse how sweaty I am. It's like 100 degrees out here today. But I think now that should fix the problems that I've been having with the head unit. Soldering those connections up, that way they're not loose, so you know anything bad is happening in there. So we know for sure now if the radio keeps going out, it's not anything to do with the wiring of it, because I just went through and restarted all of them. But another problem that I've been having, which I actually ended up fixing, that I kind of feel stupid for, is my alternator belt. So whenever I place the alternator, I'll admit I didn't tighten the belt enough. So I had to go back in here, take this off and this off to pop this cover off. And then there's a little bolt that you can do that'll adjust. You can see it right there, that bolt. Adjust the alternator's positions, so that way I can pull how tight that belt in there is. So I had to go in there, tighten it up a little bit, because it had been squeaking a lot, and I actually had my battery die because it was too loose, so it wasn't charging the battery at all. So that's how I figured out that something was wrong with it. So I'd been dealing with that problem a little bit, but I came back in, tightened it, hasn't been squeaking at all. Battery's been just fine, the car hasn't died at all. Maybe that's what was leading to the head unit issues. I'm not entirely sure, but just to be safe, tighten that up so it's not squeaking anymore. Fix the head unit, so that way we know for sure nothing's wrong with that too. And if all goes well, the WRX is going to be back running in tip-top shape. You know, being an older car and also a car that I do modifications to, of course, it requires more attention than some other cars might need. You know, buying a brand new car, you probably don't experience any of these. Maybe it already comes with Apple CarPlay. You know, most of the parts on it are already working. You don't replace it yourself because you get like warranty or something. But these older cars do require a little bit more attention, which I'm fine with doing. You know, it's not much of my time. Something goes wrong with it, it's usually a teaching lesson, something that I can learn from, going through and figuring out what the problem is and then fixing it. You know, I like working on cars, so I don't really mind that much if something is wrong with it. But yeah, with all that fixed, the Subaru should be running in tip-top shape again. Hopefully no problems, but I feel like I said that every single video that we do some maintenance to this car or something. But it also produces more content for you guys to watch. That's all that I got for you guys in this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll make sure, if you're seeing this video, that means that everything is running smoothly. I haven't experienced any other problems, and this is what fixed the problem for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me on the channel. I think we're about to hit 250 subscribers. That blows my mind. Quarter of the way to 1,000, which is my goal, hopefully by the end of the year, but we'll see. But thank you guys again so much for the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.